Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you've had a really great and amazing week. For those of you who tune in every single Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, welcome back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. For those of you who are brand new to Mental Health Moment, welcome, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here. We're here every Tuesday, 8 p.m. right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. And for those of you who are watching the replay on Dr. Nikisha Hammond YouTube, welcome. Be sure to like and subscribe. And again, thanks for those who are starting to join here. Let me know in the comments here where you are tuning in from today. I am actually back. It's a miracle, right? In the Tampa Bay area of Florida, where I reside. Normally, for those of you who are new, I'm in some city or another on some type of project. But today I am back in my sunny, beautiful, sunny Florida. And good evening to you. Thanks so much for joining here. Irvine, California is in the house. Welcome, welcome. North Carolina, another North Carolina. We got a lot of North Carolinas here in the house. Cincinnati, Ohio, Illinois is in the house. Virginia, welcome, welcome, guys. Ohio in the house. Jacksonville, Indianapolis, San Diego, DC, North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. And thanks so much for joining. So, of course, as we're again wrapping up almost halfway through the year here, I want to share some tips with you today about anxiety, because all of us at some time or another, of course, anxiety is normal, right? To have some sense of anxiety. However, when anxiety may be taking a toll on you, or you're just really having a lot of worrisome thoughts, maybe you can't eat, maybe you can't sleep, maybe you can't function at work or school or wherever it is that you're trying to function because of anxiety. It's a very real thing. So I'm going to give you a couple of tips today. But thanks for those who are still starting to join here. Arizona's in the house. Atlanta, I will be, yes, in Atlanta. Oh, this week. Wow. Okay. Yes, I'm here today in Tampa Bay. I'll be in Atlanta later on this week for our conference. So that's awesome. Sacramento, California, Raleigh, Stockton, California, Virginia, Ocala, Florida. DMV's in the house. Welcome, welcome. And thanks again so much for those of you who are joining today. So again, today's topic is thinking about how can you deal with anxiety. Anxiety comes on a spectrum. So for some of you, you may have anxiety in the typical sort of whatever you want to call normal levels of anxiety. And some of you may have more severe and stronger, more intense anxiety that's really affecting you. But nonetheless, there's this great resource. It's called helpguide.org. So it's helpguide.org. Actually, let me put it here. Should be able to hopefully put it here in the comments for you all. Hopefully that went through. Yes. So helpguide.org. And basically what that site has, I'm going to go through a couple of their tips because they're great tips about anxiety. But basically what that site has is all things related to mental health, whether it's anxiety, depression, PTSD, learning issues, ADHD, you name it, it's probably on the site. Really good, reputable information. So for those of you who are not new to Mental Health Moment, you know that I always stress, please, please utilize reputable information when it comes to mental health, because the internet is a wild place sometimes, and there's a lot of misinformation, especially when it comes to mental health. But thanks for those who are still starting to join here. Vegas is in the house. Welcome. South Carolina, welcome, welcome. Fort Worth, Texas is in the house as well. So thanks so much for joining here. So a couple quick tips. Again, this is from helpguide.org of how do you deal with anxiety, right? So one of the tips that they give, which is really great, is to create what they call a worry period. And what that means is whatever it is that you're worrying about, all of us at some point, again, are worrying about something. So whatever it is you're worrying about, whether it's your finances, whether it's your weight, whether it's your job, whether it's school, whether it's relationships, whatever it is that you are worrying about at this point in time, you create what's called a worry period. So you may say, okay, between the hours of 5:30 to 6 o'clock p.m. is your worry period, meaning you write down your list, however you want to write it down. If you want to write it down by hand, if you want to put it in your phone, if you want to say it out loud somewhere, however you want to put your list together, what are the things you're worrying about? And during that time, specifically during that time, same time and place, every day, you spend that time worrying about whatever's on your list. Okay, so that's called a worry period, because what you're training your brain to do, and thanks for those who are still starting to join here, It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Today, we're talking about anxiety and how do you manage it, and some tips from helpguide.org. So, one of the things, as I mentioned, is creating a worry period, which means whatever time of day works for you, preferably not too close to bedtime because you don't want to continue to be worrying and it affect your sleep, but a time period and a place, whether it's your living room, your bathroom, your kitchen, your bedroom, wherever, same time and place. You're going to go through your list, whatever your list is. It doesn't matter if you have 2 things on the list you're worried about, 5 things, 50 things, however many things that you can get out of your head and write down on this list. You spend that amount of time, that amount of allotted time worrying about these things. Now, I know what you're thinking already, because people always ask me, so what does that mean? Does that mean the rest of the day I'm not going to be worrying? No. But what you're trying to train your brain to do is trying to worry less. And this is especially, I'm talking to you, especially if you have a hard time with some racing thoughts, with what do I do, the what ifs, what if this happened, what should have happened, what could have happened, why did this happen, all of that. And that's constantly going through your head. You're going to have to retrain your brain on how to worry less. So, one of the steps to take, this takes time. This is not an overnight tip here, but it takes time, but is to create that worry period. So again, you might say, okay, between 5:30 and 6 p.m., I'm going to sit in my living room and I'm going to go through this list. Man, I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about my kids. I'm worried about my grandkids. I'm worried about whatever it is you're worrying about on the list. You spend that time, right? And then outside of that time, you're going to do your best to not be worrying about those things. So that's just one solution. I'm going to go through a couple with you today. Here's the thing when it comes to anxiety. Shocker. the tips I'm about to give you today, some of it for you, you're going to try and you'll be like, Dr. Hammond, I try this. It absolutely doesn't work for me. Some of you are going to try some of these tips and be like, oh my God, this changed my life. Because that is the reality of any mental health issues out there on the planet. Do what works for you, right? So some of these tips are going to work like a charm. And some of them you were like, nope, that's not it. And that's okay. Then you're going to try something else, right? And hi for those who are still starting to join here. It's Dr. Hammond here. Long Island's in the house, San Francisco, Cleveland, Ohio. Um, greetings from Canada, not 52nd state. Texas is in the house. Welcome, welcome. Thanks so much for joining here, you guys. So today, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about different tips and how do you deal with overwhelming anxiety. And I'm going to go through a couple more. Like I said, this is from helpguide.org, but also let me know in the chat. Maybe there's something that you're doing right now that works for your anxiety. So let me know in the chat, because a lot of times on mental health moments, some of you have amazing ideas, frankly, right? We're a community, and you'll put something in there and somebody else might be like, oh, wait a minute, let me try that too. Because that may be something that can reduce my own anxiety. So write it in the chat. Before I go to the next tip, what is one thing for you that you do to reduce your own anxiety that works for you? Again, we're all different. There's no right or wrong. You have to do what is best for your mental health. What is best for you? And good evening. Thanks for those who are still starting to join here. So the second tip, again, this is from helpguide.org. It has there's just nice long article on there, but I'm gonna summarize for you all tonight and give you a couple of tips out of that article because it's really, really good. So the second thing for you to do is to think about challenging your anxious thoughts, meaning asking yourself questions like, number one, what is the likelihood of this thing, whatever it is that you're fearful of, whatever it is that you're worrying about, what is the likelihood of this issue even coming to light? What is the likelihood of this even happening? Because a lot of times what we do and what anxiety does is tell us things that are like very low chance of it happening. So sometimes we worry about things that will never, most times we worry about things that will never ever happen. Or the likelihood of it happening is like 0.0001%. So think about the amount of time out of your life, precious life, the amount of time that you're taking to worry about something that has a 0% chance or extremely low chance of that happening, right? It's about reframing your brain to understand that this is very unlikely to happen. So start to challenge your thoughts, right? And it was help. Let me put in the comments here for someone. So helpguide.org, HELP as in Paul. So helpguide.org is the website. with this information. Someone said in the chat here that they journal. Beautiful. Because here's the thing about journaling. You are getting, that's one of their tips actually, is to get the worries, the anxiety out. So whether you journal, whether you're writing it down, maybe some of you, old school, like to write things down. I like to write things down. Or maybe you're using an app on your phone. Maybe you're speaking your worries into recording it in some note on your phone. Maybe you're talking to someone else about it. However it is for you that you can get this anxiety out is going to be really important. So it's not, these thoughts aren't continuing to swim around in your brain. Because when thoughts start to circulate and you're like, man, what if this? What if this? Why did this happen? What did I do? What did she do? What did he do? Like all of that, like that is what produces more anxiety. And sometimes anxiety can start to snowball, which doesn't help us, right? Doesn't help us in life at all. Someone said that they take 20 minutes a day when they come home to decompress. Also, very, very great tip. And thank you for sharing that in the community here, because it just depends on who you are. There's a lot of people that I know, which is a very healthy thing to do, is to find that time, that 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long you need to, whether it's at the start of your day, whether it, like this person said, kind of decompress when you get home, whether you need that time at night, at some point during your day, I urge you to take the time for you to decompress in some way. For me, a lot of times it's in the morning. I've shared with some of you all before on Mental Health Moment that the practice I started last year for gratitude every single morning, I haven't skipped a day, is getting up and spending a few minutes with God and just being grateful, sharing at least one thing that I'm grateful for. And not the same exact thing every day, right? Something new, not like friends, family, and health. Like those are great things. Of course, you're grateful, but like what else? What's something specific in your day? What's something that happened yesterday? Something that might happen the day after? Those types of things. So every single day, that's how I have to start my day. So again, this is for you. So it could be in the morning, it could be in the evening, afternoon, whatever works best for you. And good evening. Thanks for joining here. Someone's here from Maryland. Zephyr Hills is in the house. Yep. Someone said another question they asked themselves is, how significant will this be to me in a week, a year, or 5 years? Super important. And that's another part of challenging your thoughts, because sometimes, and it's okay, sometimes anxiety, they say the devil is a liar. Well, so is anxiety. Anxiety is a liar. Sometimes you all, like, anxiety will make you feel like something that's you're going through that literally probably is going to only affect you for a month will affect you for the rest of your life. It's not true. It's just not true. We have to retrain our brains. And it's hard sometimes, especially when you're in situations where there's some things that we feel like we'll never get over, or it's going to last 5, 10, 15 years. And it's like, nope, it's something that's only affecting you this year, or something only affecting you for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, or whatever the issue is, right? It's something, there's things that we all worry about that have absolutely no major significance in our lives. So again, as that person said, in 5 years from now, it's not even going to matter. So again, we have to be very mindful of where we spend our attention, where we spend our time, our precious time. Our life is very precious, especially when it comes to anxiety. So thank you. That is, yep, that's a good one. Someone said deprogramming is hard. Yes, it is, but it's very doable. It is hard. Not I always say to you all, the things that I'm teaching you all in Mental Health Moment, I wish I had my magic wand and you automatically can do these things, and by tomorrow you're magically a new person. We know that's not the reality. It's just not how our mental health works. It's not overnight. Things are very hard. When it comes to anxiety, especially, like I said, anxiety sometimes is a liar. You will tell yourself things that are not true. They're only your thoughts. It does not make it true. So it can be hard, but it can be done also. But you all have to make the commitment. If you're like, man, I'm tired of dealing with anxiety, I'm tired of worrying, I'm tired of stressing myself out, you have to make that commitment, right? You have to do that. And it is doable when we make the commitment. Someone said, how are you doing today? Wonderful. Thank you so much for asking. I am absolutely positively wonderful today. So thank you for asking. Hello from Seattle. Welcome all the way from the other side of the country. Seattle, welcome. Early morning gratitude. Yes, very important. Someone else said they do have early morning gratitude. A very great thing that can help you sort of ease into your day. Beautiful. Good evening to you as well. Thanks so much for joining here. So if you're just tuning in, we're going over a couple of tips related to how do you deal with anxiety? How do you deal with worry? Mental health moment, for those of you who are brand new to mental health moment with Dr. Hammond, is all about being the best version of who you are so you can show up for yourself and also show up for those around you. So today we're talking about how to combat this anxiety. I do want to pause here though before I get into the next tip and just remind you that there's a lot of different levels of anxiety. For some of us, I can give you these tips from helpguide.org. You can use these tips. You'll be great. For some of you, and that's okay, this is just not enough. And sometimes anxiety is to the level where you do need to see a mental health professional, which is okay. Therapy is okay. There's a stigma of mental health, but therapy is okay. It is okay to get help. It is okay to seek help. It is okay to have professional help, just like you would with any physical condition. If you were sick, you'd probably go to the doctor. If you had something physically wrong with you, most people are not like, man, I don't want to go get this, whatever, this intervention for physical health, but we hesitate when it comes to mental health. But it is equally as important to make sure you're taking care of your mental health. So again, if you have a level of anxiety, you're like, Dr. Hammond, I tried everything at home. This is just too much. It's too overwhelming and it's too negatively impactful in your life, then again, you may want to seek a mental health professional. You can go to put in some resources here in the chat if it wants to go through. APA.org, that's American Psychological Association. You can go to NAMI.org, which is National Alliance on Mental Illness. And there's a lot of other resources that you can try to find a mental health professional near you. Someone said in here, I use a positive affirmation app. Sometimes you need to hear from yourself what you want in your life. Beautiful, beautiful. And that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing that, because again, you have to do what works for you, but there's so many great apps right now that are available that can help with your anxiety. There's the Calm app. We've talked about that before. So many of you are aware of that. There's Insight Timer. Someone said they use a positivity affirmation app. So if that works for you, then you use apps, right, to work on reducing your anxiety. Good evening from Texas. Welcome. Thanks so much for joining here. All good. And so the third tip, so there's a couple more tips, but the third tip from, again, helpguide.org, how to deal with anxiety, how to stress less, is to think about, is this situation that I'm worried about, is it within your control? Is it really within your control? And the reason why this is important is because a lot of times we stress out about things that we have zero control over, right? And I know it's easier said than done, but if you are worried right now, think about what you're worried about. The number one thing on your list. If that thing that you're worried about, you have no control over, then you take the time, and I know it's not easy, but you have to take the time to come to terms with the fact that this is outside of your control. Totally outside of your control. Now, not everything's outside of your control. There's some things, of course, that you may be worried about that you need to make some decisions about, and you do have control over it. And you can, do certain actions or whatever it is you need to do to hopefully better your life in that situation. But there's a lot of things, though, that are completely outside of our control. A lot. So ask yourself the question when it comes to your anxiety, is this something that I can control? And if it's not, then work on releasing this idea of worrying about something that you have absolutely no control over. Okay, so that's going to be the third tip. Very important. So there's a couple today. The other thing, actually, we talked about that a little bit. The other tip from helpguide.org is to interrupt your worry. So how do you do that? You do that with things like exercise. You do that with things like deep breathing or meditating or yoga or whatever it is that you know how certain things that you do, you almost like lose track of time. Maybe it's exercising, maybe it's praying, maybe it's meditation, or whatever it is that you're doing that you're so focused on that you don't worry during that time. You want to find more things like that. What are positive things that distract you? What are positive things that you can do so you don't have to constantly be in a state of worry? You're allowed to take a break. You're allowed to have relaxation. You're allowed to have joy. You're allowed to not worry all day, every day, right? So find thing or things that you can do to distract yourself from the worry. Okay, number 5, but there's one more after this. But number 5, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but is to talk about your worries. So again, whether it's a mental health professional, whether it's your friend, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's your family member, whomever it is that you can trust, it's really a good idea to get it out. Again, because instead of the anxiety lingering in your head and you're thinking about it over and over and over again, get it out, whether you're painting, whether you're writing, whether you're talking, however you can, work on getting this out of your brain, right? Someone said gardening. Beautiful, beautiful. Gardening can be a very beautiful thing. The sixth tip is actually about practicing mindfulness, and gardening. It just reminded me of that, because when it comes to gardening, a lot of times you're very focused, right? You're whatever you're doing, you're planting or you're whatever it is that you're doing in the garden. And you're focused on one particular thing. You can not think about all your anxiety and worries and stresses during that time. So that's a great example. And again, the sixth and final tip, again, helpguide.org has the whole, I'm highlighting today some of their tips, but they have a whole article about this. But the sixth and final tip is, again, to practice your mindfulness, meaning what can you do to work on getting more into the present state of mind? Because a lot of times our anxiety is stemming from things that we're thinking about in the past, what should have happened, what could have happened, what didn't happen, what we thought should happen, all those sorts of things, right? Our mind is sometimes replaying those things, or we are worried about the future, which hasn't happened yet. If we're worried about something that's going to happen a year, 2, 5 years from now, unless you're a psychic, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. We don't know what tomorrow holds, right? So because of that, working on staying in the present moment, working on mindfulness. Someone said gardening. Working on mindfulness might look like, even if you brush your teeth, and just focus in that moment on brushing your teeth, every single step, the water running, putting toothpaste on the toothbrush, putting the toothbrush in your mouth, brushing your teeth, rinsing your mouth out, like every single step, being as focused as you can on that task. If you're washing the dishes, whatever it is, being as focused as you can on that task. And mindfulness comes with time also. So baby steps count. So even if you're like, man, I'm so stuck on thinking about the past, thinking about the future, it's really hard for me to stay in the present moment, then you practice the things that you're already doing on a daily basis. And during that 30-second window, 1-minute window, whatever it is that you have, you practice your mindfulness, because after a while, it'll start to become second nature for you, which is the goal of mindfulness, because it's a very peaceful place when you're really just focused on the present moment. There's nothing, you're just, you're present, you're existing, right? You don't have to worry about what happened yesterday or what's going to happen tomorrow. So very, very important. Practicing mindfulness. So again, I'm going to put in one last time in the chat here. There we go. Helpguide.org is where, let me put this. I'm going to put the name of the article so you guys can find it on there. There's a ton of articles on there, really good information, but it's called How to Stop Worrying and Feel Less Anxious. So if you look for that one, this is basically what I highlighted today for you all. It's a pretty long article, but obviously I'm trying to summarize this for you all as best as possible. But make sure you start to incorporate these tips in your life if you're needing to reduce your anxiety. Again, becoming the best version of who you are so you can show up for yourself and for those around you. If you all need me at any time before next Tuesday, you can always reach out, drnikishahammond.com. You can connect on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Anytime if you need a mental health professional, you can always reach out in the DM, and I'll do my best to connect you with someone in your area. And I hope that you have an amazingly wonderful week here coming up. Hopefully you are working on, again, managing your anxiety. Again, if you need a mental health professional, you can always reach out. But have an amazing week. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you implement some of these tips. You're absolutely welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Have a great week, you all. And I'll see you all next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time. Bye, you guys.